my stamping friends. It's Christine from Christine's Stamping Spot. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in St. Albert, Alberta. Thank you for joining me today on another Mystery Monday video. So happy you're joining in. Pop a note in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from or where you're watching from or watching the replay from, I guess. So yeah, we are going to continue today with some projects from our new mini catalog. So this is the mini, and if you haven't received a copy, get in touch with me. Send me an email. I can certainly try to send a copy off to you if you live in Canada or are, don't have access to it or a demonstrator. So we are going to use the products, some of them from this Nature Walk suite, which is a beautiful, kind of neutral, to me, very much a masculine suite in the catalog. And so I'm going to show you quickly some of the products that are in here. Okay, and oh, sorry, if you're looking for it, it's on page 38 and 39 of the mini. Okay, so as part of this suite, of course, there's the stamp set and the dies, which you can purchase individually or as a bundle. They are called the Nature Symphony stamp set and dies. Okay, so this is the stamp set, has some cute little greetings in it, and these are the dies. So they are meant to cut out some of the images here, plus there are a few extras. Okay, this is the die that we are going to work with today. Okay, so I'm just going to put that out because I'm going to show you where we're going to use that. So that's the stamp set and dies. And then we have some beautiful Secret Sea bordered ribbon. It's like a sheer ribbon, very lovely and soft. So it would tie really easily, I think, or as a nice accent to a project. So that's part of the suite, and as well as these faux bronze pentagons. That's what I meant to say. So there are two different sizes, some smaller ones and some that are a little bit larger. They're self-adhesive, very masculine. So these are great accents to a card. And then we have, if I can find it, we had some beautiful textured, oh, here it is, some beautiful textured cardstock as well. So these are, this comes as 3 in a package in the same suite, and they have beautiful kind of rougher texture to them. So vanilla, and then 2 sort of, I'm not sure if these would be close to a crumb cake or something else, but you've got the texture on both sides. So they're 12 by 12 sheets. So even just as a background, you could stamp on them, you could die cut them. So really interesting cardstock there. And then last is our Nature Walk designer paper. Beautiful, beautiful paper. So this palette has a lot of neutrals and regals colors in it. So for example, you've got Secret Sea, you've got Old Olive, green, garden green, mossy meadow, pecan pie, you've got some crumb cake, Secret Sea I mentioned. There's even a bit of balmy blue and pretty peacock in it. So a lot of very interesting colors. So this is one side of it. It has like a script and it looks like it's written in English. So I know sometimes we can get it in French or a different language, which I cannot read, but this one looks like it's in English. So that's kind of interesting. This is more the pecan pie palette. Okay, so this is nice for a background, kind of vintagey. Here you've got the beautiful, pretty peacock, kind of like a brushed kind of stroke there, right? And here you've got some of those beautiful greens right here. So those are lovely. And some more greens mixed with the crumb cake. So your mossy meadow, your old olive, all right? And then this one with your Secret Sea and your balmy blue. That's a nice combination right there. And then this one, which is lovely too. You've got a little bit of almost everything going in this one. Okay, kind of looks like the sea is splashing up kind of in the dark. I don't know. It's just really pretty. And then the back side are quite neutral. So this is a really lovely sort of checkered pattern out of the Secret Sea. Here's some more of that dark Secret Sea. And you've got this pretty peacock happening. Some more of those greens, very rich and elegant. Nice background there. These nice sort of, oh, cloud cover I think is also in the palette. And then this sort of checkered pattern, which kind of has a bit of darker hues to it as well, kind of vintage looking. So beautiful, beautiful paper, in my opinion. Lovely. Okay, so we are going to make a masculine card today. Not that these couldn't be feminine cards, I suppose, but I know sometimes we struggle with masculine cards and we don't always think to make them. We kind of tend to, go to our florals or different things to make a card, but this I think will make some beautiful masculine cards too. Okay, so we are going to start with a piece of Secret Sea as our base, and I think I've mentioned, I think Secret Sea is probably my favorite in color right at the moment. I just love this blue. Okay, so we'll set that aside. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is, our next layer is 5 1/4 by 4. So I will post all these measurements just so you know, and it'll all also be on my YouTube channel, the video, if you want to check back later. So this is the one with the script on the back, that piece of designer paper, and it's got a bit of a thickness to it, right? So what my intent was here is I wanted to crumple this layer up. Okay, really distress it and give it some texture. And I was a little worried because it being so stiff that it might kind of rip or tear or whatever. So to soften up those fibers, you're going to take your Stampin' Spritzer. I just didn't have mine handy. Or just a bottle of water, a spray bottle, okay? And you're just going to give it a little bit of a spritz, okay? Just to soften it up, and then you can definitely wipe up your work surface. If you're like me, it probably went everywhere. Okay, but at least it's only water. That's good. Okay, so that's softened the fibers enough that I'm just going to crumple it in my hands, okay? Let's just crumple it up. And then when you unfold it, it's going to be a teeny bit damp. And you might want to let it sit and dry a bit, but look at all that lovely texture, okay? And if it rips like it did at the bottom, I am good with that. That gives you a little bit more of a texture to it. And if you find it's still not, still a little bit too stiff, just give it another little spritz of water. That's fine. Okay, so then what I'm going to do, you could either just set this aside to dry while you work on some of the other pieces there. Which is what we are going to do. Okay, I'm just going to set this aside. And then I'm going to bring out, while that dries a little bit, you could probably take a heat tool a little bit too, but I'm going to bring out a piece of Very Vanilla because we are going to do some blending with our blending brushes to make these leaves here, okay? These are cut out with this die. So what I did here is I cut one out with the Secret Sea, okay? So one just out of the plain cardstock, and you can see it has all these little veins kind of sticking out, right? And that shows up when you run this through your die cut machine. Can you see that? And I've done this before. You can see my blue fingers here, the sponging, but you've got that nice little texture coming through. Okay, so we're going to use one of those, but we're going to do one more, and it's going to be this top one. Now, you don't have to do this part. If you want to keep it simple, just cut another leaf. Excuse me, you can do it out of Pretty Peacock, or a different blue or a green, or whatever you want to do, okay? I wanted just to experiment with a bit of blending with some different blues, and I wanted to put that on top, and I wanted some of these other colors to kind of poke through a little bit, okay, for some interest. So to do that, I took just a piece of Very Vanilla, large enough to fit my die, because we are going to cut this out after we're done. Okay, so I'm going to start with the colors I'm using are Balmy Blue, Blueberry Bushel, and Secret Sea. If you wanted to use a different color palette, like if you wanted to do it in greens instead, you could certainly pull out the old olives and the garden greens and the mossy meadow. That would make for lovely a leaf, you know, design as well. So you're just going to start randomly applying the ink, and no right or wrong on how you do this. You can always add more later, and every time you do this, it's going to be a little bit different, right? Because, you know, chances are you aren't always applying the ink in the same place. Okay, then I'm going to go to my Blueberry Bushel and do the same thing. Okay, so you basically want to cover up all that vanilla. I mean, if you have a little bit poking through, that's probably fine too. Gives it a little bit more interest as well. But I like this technique. I have done it before, like with fall leaves. I've done it using a lot of the reds and the oranges and the yellows, and then just cut my leaves out of this and use those on a card. Sometimes after, you can always spritz a little bit of water to give it like kind of droplet feeling to it, right? So there's lots of different things you can play with this technique, and it's just really fun. Okay, and our last color will be our Secret Sea. Okay, so let's just put this through wherever you like. So depending on how dark you go, you know, that's how dark your leaves will be. Okay, and if you want to add a little lighter, you can do that. Go back and add some more Blueberry Bushel or your Balmy Blue. I'm not sure you'll see too much Balmy Blue, but it does lighten it a little bit here if you just do that. Okay, and then I'm just going to wipe this down. Oopsie. My cloth. Beauty of our glass mat. I'll try to clean off my fingers a bit, but I'm sure they will be stained for a little while. Just showed you've been having some fun. It's kind of like when we used to have our glitter, right? The loose glitter. Everyone that would leave your workshops or leave would have sparkles somewhere on their face. It was always so funny. Okay, so then what you would do is go and cut this out with your die. Okay, so I've done one ahead of time, and it turned out like this. Okay, so that's how that turned out. So these are the two leaves we are going to put inside our frame. So let's first of all bring back that crumpled paper we did. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to give it a little bit of a tear. This is a really old technique, paper tearing. And because it's a little soft, I can kind of crumple that left side a bit. So you're just going to tear from top to bottom on the right, tearing it towards you, and it's going to leave this rough edge. Now it has a bit of white, right? Because this paper isn't dyed all the way through like our cardstock. If I were to do this on our cardstock, like on the Secret Sea, it would just be all blue. You wouldn't have any white showing. But this designer paper isn't dyed all the way through, so that's why you have that little bit of a white edge. So I'm going to just sort of cover that up. Not that I have to. You could leave it if you wanted. So I'm going to bring back my Secret Sea, and you could use a sponge dauber or just a regular sponge. I'm just going to use the blending brush because we had them out already. And I'm just going to sponge that edge just to kind of cover up the white. And then if you want, You could even add a little bit more along the other edges, just gently. You don't have to add a lot, or you could just leave it. Okay, I didn't do this on my sample. I just did the torn edge, but that's okay too. Let me just close all of these inks right now because otherwise I'm gonna drop something into them. Okay, let me just, there we go. Okay, then I don't have to worry about those. Okay, so now we have this crumpled layer, and we are going to put this on top of our card base, like so. Okay, so I'm going to put some adhesive. Now, just be careful because the fibers have been broken down a bit with that water, so you don't want it to rip, okay? So just go gently if you're using the Stampin' Seal. If you're using glue, that's fine. Okay, so we're just going to put this here, kind of in the center, and you can see by crumpling, it has actually shrunken our paper a little bit because this was cut at 5 1/4 by 4 to start, which would typically go almost to the edges, but by crumpling that up, it's kind of made it shrink a little bit, which is neat. And you see all that nice texture and stuff, right? Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is, where is my piece? Did I not cut it out? I knew I did. I thought I did. My frame. Okay, what did I do with my frame? I was pretty sure I cut it out, but maybe I did not. So let's cut it out now. So I am going to grab a piece of that designer paper. I must have got distracted. I was going to do it and I forgot. Mondays, right? Monday mornings. Duh. Okay, so for the frame, okay, so you see how I have this green frame here. I'm going to cut a piece of the designer paper. Pick out whichever pattern you want. And I'm just going to cut this at 5 1/4 by 3 1/2. So let's do it 3 1/2 this way, 3 1/2. And this is going to fit our textured notes dies. That's what I'm going to use to cut out this frame. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So what did I say? 5 1/4 by 3 1/2. So I'll go 5 1/4. Oh, there's some nice blue on that part. Where's that green? Here's more blue. Oh, so you can kind of finagle which parts you want to show. Okay, let's do that. So 5 1/4 by 3 1/2. And then I'm going to pull out my textured notes dies. Okay, so to do this, to make my frame, I'm going to take out the second largest, okay, which will fit here. And then I'm going to take out the 4th largest and lay that inside, okay? Now you can play with how wide you want your frame, okay? I felt this was good enough for me, but if you wanted a wider frame, you would just use a smaller die. So then you might go one size down and use a smaller die, and then your frame would be that size, okay? Or if you wanted it skinnier, you could, use a different die just to make it a really thin frame. But I'm going to do that, so I will be right back. I'm just going to cut these out. And that's so great when you have dies like this that nest together, because you can get all kinds of different shapes from them. So just give me a minute. I just want to make sure I have this straight. You're going to center that smaller die in the larger one, and then I'll show you how this looks. Excuse the wobble. So this is what I'm left with. So you have this centerpiece, which you can use on another project. Okay, so I'll put this die back, and then your large one, this was the outside of that layer of paper, which you could use or not. And this is the frame that I'm left with. Okay, so that is just by using your Textured Notes dies. Okay, so let's bring in our base, and we are going to put our frame here. So that is going to go on top of our crumpled paper, but I'm going to add this with some mini dimensionals because I want this popped up a little bit. And I'm not sure if the large dimensionals, I didn't actually try. I just didn't want any of the white to show. I suppose you could try the black dimensionals. We have two. I always forget about those, right? But they are super handy if you're using like black or, you know, a really dark cardstock, then you wouldn't see the white peeking underneath. So those are always a great alternative. I'm going to have to dig those out and have them handy. Okay, so let's take off all this backing. If you had foam, those foam strips, you could use that as well on here. That would just, you know, could put 4 on there. Okay, so decide which, you know, how you want this to look, which colors you want at the top or at the bottom if you're fussy or just have a preference. So we're just going to give that a gentle press there. Okay, so there's our frame. So now we're ready to put our leaves in. So I'm going to start with our Secret C, and for this I'm just going to use our glue. Okay, so you can see you've got those impressions here from the die with all the veins. So that's the side you want facing up. So I'm just going to put some glue on the back of each of these leaves. Okay, doesn't have to be a lot, but enough that it's going to hold onto that crumpled paper. Okay, so these are very delicate, so just be careful when you're handling them. Okay, so then I want part of this to be tucked under and part to be over the frame. So I'm just going to put it like that. You could definitely put it whatever position you want. And with the glue, you have a little bit of time to reposition. Okay, so that's that layer. And then this one I'm going to put on top, but I'm going to kind of offset it a bit just so you can see that Secret C one peeking out behind. Okay, so let's okay. So that looks fine. So let's grab that. Again, it's very delicate, so just be careful. Okay, so we are going to sort of offset this. Maybe however you want, right? It can be like that. However you want this to look. Of course, I've got glue on my fingers now, even though I didn't think I used that much. Okay, so you just want that Secret C to be visible behind. If you just wanted a slight little shadow, then you would try to, you know, lay them pretty close on top of each other. But I kind of like that blue peeking out as well. Kind of brings out the blue from the base. Okay, those are our leaves. So now we can add our greeting. So for the sample, I used A Great Guy, because that's in a stamp set, the Nature Symphony. I thought that was really good considering it's a masculine card. But for this one, I wanted a birthday, so I just grabbed the Something Fancy, which I believe is probably retired. And I just wanted this little happy birthday here. I didn't want something really large, and it had a coordinating die. So I stamped happy birthday in the Secret Sea ink on crumb cake, and then I cut it out with that coordinating die. And then I'm just going to pop this up with some minis as well. Okay, let's do that. All right. That looks good. And then I wanted sort of half, kind of a little bit on the frame, but also some of it off the frame. So I think I'll put it down here, and that kind of covers the base, the stem, the base of the stem of those leaves too, right? And then last, we're going to add some of these faux bronze pentagons. I was going to say hexagons, but I knew that wasn't right. So on my sample, like my DSP was a little bit dark here. Like I could have put it on this side. I mean, you can see them, but they kind of blend in a bit too. This piece that I have is a little bit lighter, so that works too. So this time I did use the large, but this time let's use the smaller ones. I think those are just as nice. You could even do a combination, like 2 small and 1 large, or 1 large and 2 small. I'll just use three small ones. And there you go. There is your Nature Symphony card. For some reason, that was hard to say. All right, so I hope you give that a try, or try different color combinations, because that cardstock is definitely beautiful. You could certainly pull out any of the colors from that cardstock as your jumping point and just go from there. So I hope that gave you some ideas, and that you enjoy that project, and we'll give it a try. So we'll see you all next time, and take care. Have a great week. Bye for now.